Hello everyone. It's that time. The final challenge. Everything we've done so far has been working towards this moment. Two of the toughest bosses in the game stand before us, so we can only bring the best. Oh! Is that Ephraim? That's right. We're bringing Ephraim to the final chapter. Okay, I can't be serious anymore. Listen, Ephraim's been feeling kinda down lately. Not only has he been a bench warmer throughout the entirety of his route, but his sister has now stolen the limelight from him by becoming the most dominant unit in our entire army. And so he's been feeling a little down. And we're gonna cheer him up. So we're bringing him to the final chapter as our little cheerleader, our good luck charm. As such, you may have seen, but we gave him the goddess icon that I definitely didn't forget to use previously. We also gave him the Siegmund, his signature weapon, that he can't really use, but you know, he'll use it in spirit. He's also holding on to his sister's lunar brace for some reason, so don't question it. Anyways, with that bit out of the way, let me do a more formal introduction. If you were unaware, I'm Osfey, and this is the final chapter of my Fire Emblem 8 0% Growths Reverse Recruitment LTC. This chapter is quite interesting. It's split up into two parts. The first one, we need to kill Leon, who is significantly buffed from the version we fought in Chapter 17. And then in the second part of this chapter, we will be fighting the Demon King. Now, both of these bosses have some pretty insane bulk. Fortunately for the Demon King, we do get a little bit of help with having effective damage against him since he's a monster. But they're both pretty damn bulky, and it's going to be really hard to kill them. And that brings me to my next point. We will be using Pierce twice, specifically 2 Pierce crits, one on Leon and one on the Demon King. I'm not super proud of this. I know Pierce and Pierce crits in particular are generally kind of frowned upon, and that's why I avoided using Pierce at all throughout the rest of this playthrough whenever I could avoid it. I'm still not super proud of it, but it was the only way I could find to get through their disgusting defenses. I mean, like, for example, our next best damage option, Natasha, I think does like 5 damage to Leon. He's just insanely bulky, and it's the same with the Demon King. But I'm not going to focus too much on that now. I'll talk about kind of my reasoning behind it a little bit later. When we're in like the epilogue and I have a lot more time to talk and shit. Let's talk about the actual chapter though. So we need to grab the Angelic Robe, which we are going to be doing quite soon. Like I said, we need 2 Angelic Robes on Erica in order to survive a round of combat with the Demon King. And so, since we gave the first Angelic Robe from Chapter 8 to Cyrene, we needed to go out of our way to grab this one. And that's what we do. We have her use it right before we kill Leon. And, hold on, this is my, I think my favorite part from this chapter. We give Ephraim a kill. Look at him go. Isn't he just adorable? But yeah, there was Ephraim's contribution. He helped us out, and he'll be cheering on from the sidelines throughout the rest of this chapter as well. But yeah, I just had to do that. I kind of thought that'd be funny. It's completely unnecessary. It just adds, like, you know, unnecessary time to the clear, but I just liked it. But yeah, here is the first Pierce crit. By giving Cormag the energy ring, he does the exact amount of damage to kill Leon in one hit with a Pierce crit. He does exactly 75 damage. And so that kind of worked out and was the main reason why I gave him the energy ring. But yeah, that was the first part of the final chapter in 2 turns. Now on to the Demon King. The only thing standing between us and a completed run. Much like Leon, the Demon King is extremely bulky. However, unlike Leon, the Demon King is a monster-type enemy, so we get double effectiveness when using legendary weapons against him. Even with this weapon effectiveness, though, we still only do 12 damage per attack, and so the kill we end up landing on is chipping him down, doing 48 damage over 2 rounds of combat with Erica, and then finishing him off with a Killer Lance Pierce crit with Cormag. I think now's a good time to quickly talk about all the investment that was required just to get Erica to a point where she could double and chip him down without dying. as I've mentioned before, she needed the 2 angelic robes just to survive a single attack from the Demon King. And then we needed to give her 3 speed wings so that she could reliably double him. 3 speed wings gets her up to 24 speed. And technically, we could try to get away with only 22 speed using only 2 speed wings. Because the Demon King can RNG dependent roll either 18 or 19 speed, but to boost reliability and just make it so we didn't need to rig, you know, his stats, I opted to get the 3rd speed wing so that she would always double him no matter what. But yeah, just all that investment literally just so she could survive and double him. But yeah, here comes the Pierce crit. The 2nd and only Pierce activation in the run. And there it is. That's the run. That is the run. What a journey it has been. Yeah, that was the final chapter in 3 turns. The first part taking 2 turns, and the second part taking 1 turn. And that is the entire run in a little over 2 hours and 13 minutes and 72 turns, as you will soon see. And yeah, now we got the credits rolling, we can talk a little bit more. First, I just want to talk about my decision to use Pierce crits. I had kind of just accepted that Leon was going to need a Pierce crit to kill him. I think Natasha does barely any damage, if she does damage at all, even with the legendary Light Tome. And Erica does barely any damage. We need her to use the Angelic Robe anyways. I don't know, just a large number of reasons why that needed to happen. Jumpy kills with not a Pierce crit, but he procs, I think, 3 pierces with a Brave Lance. We wouldn't really be able to do that. First of all, our Cormag is kind of too weak to pull that off. And also it would require investment or rigging him dodging attacks. All in all, it was just what I decided to end up doing. I'm not super proud of needing Pierce crits, but I don't want to let that detract from the rest of the run because I am proud with how a lot of the run came out. I do think one thing I could have improved a lot on was just boosting reliability. Going back and doing commentary on some of the chapters in particular, I noticed places where I definitely could have made things more reliable. I think the biggest instance of that, and I talked about this a little bit in Chapter 18, was just giving Erica the energy ring instead of Cormag. It would have made her getting to S-rank swords a lot more reliable and a lot easier, and the only major difference would have been needing to chip Leon a little bit before using a Pierce crit, since I wouldn't be able to one-shot him with a Pierce crit anymore. But overall, I am really happy with how the run came out. I really enjoyed doing this. Especially like optimizing the late game, as like frustrating as it was doing chapters 13 through 18 like 7 different times. I am really happy with the final product. But yeah, overall, it was, I had a really good time. And I think now we're gonna do the turn counts. Yeah, here we go. Should be 72 turns in total. There are 2 pretty free turn saves, so I think you could pretty easily get this down to 70. There was the Chapter 5X incident, where you could have pretty easily cleared that in 4 turns, and then there was the 2-turn Chapter 7 that I deemed too unreliable at the time, but I think thinking back now, after doing all the insanely unreliable shit in the late game, I think you could also just get away with that without, you know, you do have to dodge, you have to rig like a 98% hit, and you need to dodge a 98% hit to get the 2-turn clear, but, you know, considering all the other unreliable shit, I don't think that's too bad. But I'm not going to beat myself up over it. I am really happy with how the late game in particular turned out. And I am really happy with the run overall. Let's see. Oh, we could talk about investment decisions too. I did a lot of math when I got into the late game and saw how fucking difficult it was to kill a lot of the late game bosses. Like, Orson, with how fucking dodgy he is and the, you know, the insane like res and defense he gets from the throne bonus. I did spend a lot of time kind of going over investment decisions, especially after I had done, you know, chapters 13 through 18 for like, you know, like the 4th or 5th time. I was like, okay, I really want to make sure I have my investment decisions figured out so I don't have to do this all over again. And I ended up landing on Erica, and I would like to talk about the 2 other investment targets that I had considered, and those were Vanessa and Cormag. Currently the lowest turn count 0% growth's normal recruitment run by Jumpy uses a super Cormag, so you basically give pretty much all of your investment to Cormag. I mean, there's some exceptions, but you know, your energy rings, your speed wings all go to Cormag, and he puts in a lot of work and does a lot of things that, you know, if I were to try to give the same investment to Cormag, just wouldn't end up working. I did do the math, and I think Cormag falls short. He's like 2 speed lower. It's all because of his lower base stats. They kind of just screw him over because he starts at a much lower level. So he has like worse speed, worse skill, worse strength, and it just makes it all the boss kills that you rely on in the normal recruitment run way more unreliable. And it was a similar thing with Vanessa. She's the only other unit you could get up to 24 speed and, you know, reliably double the Demon King, so that was one of my main considerations for a long time. But she also struggles a lot with hit rates, especially on, like, Orson in particular was the one that really made me reconsider using her as an investment target. And yeah, that's why I kind of landed on Erica, because not only does she start with really high speed and skill, which gives her pretty good hits rate to begin with, but swords have, you know, generally have a lot better hit than other weapon types. And so that was kind of why I chose to do that for reliability reasons. Let's see. Future plans. This is definitely not my, you know, first, and well, okay, it is my first LTC, but it's definitely not my last LTC, or at least LTC related thing. I had a lot of fun with this, and I definitely want to do more stuff like this in the future. As of the time of recording this commentary, I am already started work on another project. I'm still in like preliminary testing to see if it is something that I'm going to want to do like a full game run for, and so far it's shaping up to be pretty interesting. It is not an LTC, but it is very much related to an LTC. I don't want to spoil too much now, but if you've ever watched Flashing Fire's pacifist runs, where he tries to get through the game killing the minimum amount of units possible, it is kind of similar to that, and it's on Radiant Dawn, which is one of my favorite games, so look forward to that if you liked watching this. But yeah, I'm definitely going to do more stuff like this in the future. Either another LTC of another game, or maybe something like an ETC where you just kind of focus on efficiency in general, so, you know, low turn count strats, but also focus a lot more on reliability, because that is something that I think I could improve upon a lot, is just coming up with more reliable strategies. But yeah, those are the future plans. We'll see how that pans out. I am also, at the time of recording this, my college classes start up again tomorrow, and I'm doing a lot of like senior project stuff this year, so I am probably going to be pretty busy coming up in the future, but I'm still going to make time to work on stuff like this, so yeah, look out for stuff like that. Oh, and also, dude, I have a lot of stuff to work on, but I also do want to publish clears for the 2 chapters that I could have saved a turn in to get this down to 70 turns, which are, as I spoke about already, chapters 5X and 7. But yeah, that is pretty much it for my future plans. But before I end things off, I guess I could talk about just other things I liked about the run in general. This is going to be really disorganized. I'm kind of all over the place. Sorry, this is mostly all done in like one take, And I have like a rough list of things I want to talk about, but no, it's like a pretty loosely structured thing. I'm really bad at doing scripted stuff for the most part. I like having kind of general guidelines for stuff I'm going to talk about, but I feel like when I read off a script, it just doesn't sound natural. But yeah, I guess let's talk about the run in general and kind of some of the highlights of doing reverse recruitment over normal recruitment. This is a perfect opportunity as we're looking at the GOAT of this run, Natasha. It was cool seeing a lot of units that I had previously not used much or had a really low opinion of, kind of seeing them shine in this, you know, very specific reverse recruitment 0% growth context. You know, people like Natasha, who I pretty much never use. Like in base Sacred Stones, if you've ever tried to use Natasha, it is not easy. She starts at level 1 with pretty bad bases. She has like decent growths, but it just requires a lot of work to get her, you know, up to snuff. But she was a huge standout unit. She put in a shitload of work from the moment she joined. Combat was amazing, and then, you know, warp and rescue utility was unmatched. So that was pretty cool. It was also really cool seeing Cyrene put in work, because that's another unit that I've always written off as like pretty bad, and I think for good reason. You know, she joins with kind of similar base stats to like Seth, who you get in the prologue, except she joins in chapter 17, which is like one of the very last chapters. And unless you intend on immediately bringing her to the Tower of Volney and grinding her up, which you know, you can do that with any unit to make them good, she's going to struggle to put in work. But, you know, in this specific context where she was able to kind of carry the early game, get up to S-rank swords, and eventually use the Edholma, and just overall put in a lot of work throughout the game with both combat and utility, it was really cool seeing Cyrene kind of put in work like that. I will always be biased towards using units like Cyrene and Natasha now just because of how fucking goated they were in this run. But yeah, those were the two standouts. It was also cool seeing Erica be good for once in the late game. The only time where growths is kind of better than bases because of the auto-leveling and average stats. Yeah, those were the standouts. I also liked getting a dancer really early. It was interesting seeing how much you could break the game by having a dancer when you're usually not supposed to. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, I guess something else I noticed about this run in particular, maybe this was like a mistake, but it was something I noticed, is that we kind of spread out our stat boosters across a lot of different units for like very specific circumstances, like, you know, Cyrene being able to survive tough enemy phases and pull off the chapter 13 3-turn clear by giving her the angelic robe, or giving Natasha the energy ring strictly so she could do things like, you know, set up the chapter 12 boss kill for Cormag, and then eventually use the 9 warp range to set up pretty unique clears like the 2-turn chapter 16, or, you know, be able to warp someone into the chest room for chapter 19 that's only possible with a 9 range warp. Just a lot of really interesting stuff that you usually wouldn't really see, at least that I've seen in a lot of like 0% growth playthroughs. I'm sure you do spread out stat booster investment a lot in general. But yeah, it was interesting seeing how reverse recruitment made the game a lot more unique and made how decision making kind of panned out a lot more interesting. But yeah, overall I had a lot of fun with this. And it is definitely not my last foray into the LTC world. But yeah, I think that's pretty much going to wrap it up. Before I go, though, I do want to give thanks. First of all, huge thank you to Jumpy23 for inspiring me to optimize the absolute shit out of the like mid to late game. It was only after I started watching a lot of his clears and kind of hearing his commentary about it, and, you know, even talking to him a little bit over like Reddit and stuff once I started posting stuff, that really inspired me to go back and look at a lot of chapters that I had previously kind of just accepted, like, you know, I can get like a 3-turn clear here. But then go, no, actually, if I really try to like push the limits and use some of these like unique strategies, I can save turns. And I think when I first started, like, it's kind of embarrassing to say, but when I first started like posting the clears of like the early game clears, I think my run was 78 turns in total. And then after like talking with him and some other people and looking at a lot of Jumpy's clears, I realized I could go back and kind of like start pushing the limits, and then, you know, was able to get it all the way down to the 72 turn run that we ended up with. So yeah, huge thanks to Jumpy. He also helped explain some stuff to me, like enemy AI, which I found really cool. Yeah, he's super knowledgeable on all things FE8. If you like watching my run and you haven't watched Jumpy's normal recruitment 0% growths FE8 run, you definitely should, and I will link it in the description because it's a really good watch. Really good commentary and some pretty fucking cool strats. Also, yeah, huge thanks to him. And thank you to everyone that watched this and interacted with the videos on Reddit and YouTube. Seeing people like leave comments or ask questions about clears really made it all the more worthwhile and really like motivated me to work on this a lot. I spent pretty much my entire summer working on this. Most days were spent almost like entirely working on stuff or trying to like optimize strategies and whatnot. And I was only really able to maintain that motivation and put in so much work on it because of all the feedback I got and seeing people, you know, enjoy it or have questions about it or like different strats. So yeah, thank you to everyone who watched this thing. I had a lot of fun with this. And yeah, this is not the last you will see. But yeah, that'll be it. I will see you guys later. Peace.